Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we plunge into some really fascinating topics and pull out the absolute best bits just for you. Today, we're heading over to the British Isles, metaphorically speaking, diving headfirst into a really transformative time in cultural history.
Sound good.
Okay, let's unpack this. We're looking at British street style. Specifically, that really vibrant, sometimes, rebellious period from 1977 right up to 2002.
Quite a span.
It is. And our main guide for this deep dive is this landmark coffee table book. It's called Counterculture, British Street Style, 1977-2002. Massive work by Montessori and Brendan Wyatt.
A seminal piece, really.
Absolutely. So our mission for you, listening in, is basically to give you a shortcut, a way into understanding this really rich, visually amazing source, giving you the key insights into a fascinating era of fashion, music, and I think crucially, identity.
Yeah, and what's fascinating here is, like you said, it's not just about clothes, is it?
No, not at all.
Counterculture goes way deeper. It explores how fashion got tangled up with music, social awareness, how people built their identity during what the authors call, quite rightly, an era of seismic change in Britain.
Seismic change, yeah.
And it's not light reading. I mean, literally, it's huge.
Physically imposing, you could say.
Definitely. 653 pages. Weighs, 4.5 kilos?
Wow.
Yeah, and it's big, 340 by 270 millimeters. So its presence alone kind of makes a statement, before you even open it. It stakes its claim not just as a visual archive, but as like a proper social history, a love letter to the style that came off the British streets.
A love letter, I like that.
Yeah, it's something you're meant to absorb, live with, keep going back to, almost like a sacred text for street style fans.
You're so right. That scale isn't just incidental, is it? It feels like part of the message, part of its authority.
Exactly.
It really is a monumental archive. And when you look inside, the structure, it's so meticulous, 14 really detailed chapters. But what really blows you away, I think, is the dedication behind it. Over 1,000 original vintage garments and accessories featured.
Incredible collection.
And they're not just stock photos or old magazine pics. Every single item photographed directly from the author's own personal collections. They collected all this stuff themselves.
Commitment.
Isn't it just that authenticity? It just shines through. Peter Hooton, from The Farm.
Yeah, great band.
He described it perfectly, called it a work of art, like a medieval manuscript that will be cherished.
That's high praise.
It is. And he predicted it will be talked about and discussed across the world for many years to come. And honestly, when you dive in, you totally get why. It sort of elevates this passion project into serious cultural documentation.
Yeah, Peter Hooton's point really nails why a book like this was needed, It's not about glossing over things, or like Blackie from Half Man, Half Biscuit said in his review, it's not dewy-eyed nostalgia.
Right, it avoids that trap.
Completely. It's presented as a definitive historical record, documenting styles, subcultures that really shaped a generation. Blackie even says you should read it chronologically.
Oh, interesting. Why?
He says the chronology of the matter is all important here. It suggests it's not just snapshots, but a story unfolding, showing how things evolved, how styles connected over time, sometimes in surprising ways.
So it's a narrative.
Exactly. And that physical weight we mentioned, it really matches the density of the content. Blackie joked, it's not something you will be carting off to the British Heart Foundation shop. Once acquired, it won't be leaving your home, ever.
Huh. Probably true.
And it perfectly captures its value, right? It's meant to be a permanent fixture if you're serious about this period of British youth culture.
That commitment, that told by the lads who lived it aspect, that sounds so vital.
It is.
And speaking of living it, the book really tracks how these movements changed over time. If we start chronologically, like Blackie suggested, with those soul boys in the late 70s, what strikes you most about their style?
Well, I think it's the sheer sharpness and the aspiration behind it.
Yeah.
The book kicks off then, late 70s, introduces the soul boys, described as these really sharp dressers, passionate about rare groove, that sophisticated funk, soul, jazz funk mix.
Yeah, smooth stuff.
Exactly. And crucially passionate about imported clobber. That meant high-end, often European designer gear.
So not stuff you'd find out in the local market.
Definitely not. For these guys, their outfits, which were meticulously put together, weren't just about looking sharp. It was almost like sartorial defiance.
Defiance, how so?
Well, think about the time. Often quite gray, industrial decline. This imported clobber was like a visual rebellion. It projected sophistication, a connection to Europe, to something bigger maybe, when local prospects felt a bit limited.
Ah, I see. It's a statement. We're not just surviving, we're connected, we have taste.
Precisely. It says we aspire to something more.
That's fascinating, seeing style as resistance right from the start. And the book carries that thread through, doesn't it? Into the 80s and beyond.
Oh, absolutely. It traces this incredible evolution through the 80s and into the early 2000s. So many different movements get covered.
Give some examples.
Well, after the Soul Boys, you get this whirlwind tour. There's the explosion of b-boy culture. That brought U.S. hip-hop style, the big tracksuits, the sportswear right into British cities, all about the dance, the crew.
Very different vibe.
Totally. Then you have the hedonistic energy of the acid house ravers late 80s. Loose fits, bright colors, sportswear again, but reflecting that rave euphoria, freedom. A massive contrast to the sharp tailoring of earlier groups.
Yeah, baggy was in.
Definitely. And the hip-hop heads kept evolving those b-boy looks, but gave them a distinct British twist, using brands that were maybe more accessible, but worn with this undeniable swagger.
It's like a visual history of youth culture unfolding. Blackie from Half Man, Half Biscuit even mentions the magnificent escort-slipping geography teacher look of the early 80s in the Peter Storm jackets.
Ah, yeah. Shows how these things seeped into everyday life, sometimes unintentionally.
But the book connects these threads, right? It's not just a list of styles.
No, not at all. And this is key. It's not just about isolated fashion choices. Each chapter shows the links. How music, where you lived, your class, even just the attitude of the time, how all that influenced what people wore and why.
The why is crucial.
Absolutely. And that authenticity we mentioned, that's what makes counterculture stand out. It's not academics looking back or stylists. It's told by, quote, the lads who lived it.
Real voices.
Exactly. You get firsthand stories, reflections from people all over the UK. Scousers, Manx, Londoners, Brummies, Geordies, you name it, each giving their perspective on the styles they helped create.
That must add so much depth.
It really does. It adds this raw human edge. Makes the book feel like a living document, you know? Real experiences, real subcultural pride. It makes it relatable. Even if you weren't there, you understand the passion.
A living document. I like that description. Now, among all these groups, counterculture spends a lot of time on one in particular, the casuals.
Huge focus.
And the book's detail here really showcases its approach. Kev Sampson, one of the authors, captures its sort of slippery nature. He says, there was no big bang with this thing of ours. It didn't arrive fully formed.
Right, it wasn't planned.
Exactly. He calls it a cult with no name, an underground, truly independent street scene that evolved piece by piece. It wasn't dictated, it just grew. Organically.
And that organic evolution is precisely what makes the casual so compelling. Sampson explains how it came from bits of this, bits of that.
Bits of what, exactly?
Well, young football fans moving away from the older styles like skinhead bobber boots or the wide jeans and big hair you saw earlier, and borrowing elements from, well, almost everywhere. Punks, soul boys, sticksmen, the scooter boys preppies.
Eclectic mix.
Very, even from sports like tennis and squash. And maybe surprisingly, from David Bowie's thin white Duke persona, that elegant, detached cool.
Wow, Bowie too.
Yeah. It wasn't just copying, though. It was a fusion, like magpies picking shiny bits and making something new. And the book, true to form, details all this with, as it says, the love, patience, and attention to detail of a bespoke tailor. It gets incredibly specific about the brands, the items that mattered.
That granular detail naming really obscure brands shows how obsessive it was, doesn't it?
Totally.
What does that tell us about how it worked? Like mentioning jelly beans or Luta, what was the deal with those? Or things like yachting pumps or chow?
Down in specialist sports shops. Took effort, insider knowledge, so we're a sportswear brand. Wearing Luta wasn't just functional, it was a nod to others in the know. A quiet signal of your superior taste. Your dedication to finding the next thing. It speaks volumes about the subculture's internal codes.
It's brilliant, not just showing off, but this subtle, almost secret social currency.
Yeah.
Having the rarest Adidas trainer or that specific Italian jacket meant you understood the code, cemented your place in the group, but often invisible to outsiders.
Yeah.
A kind of power, really.
Perfectly put. Robert Wade Smith from the legendary Liverpool shop.
Wade Smith, yeah, iconic.
He points out how this one-upmanship dress code ended up influencing pretty much all football terraces across Britain. It was this constant game.
Yeah.
Have something unique, rare, prove your commitment.
And you get insights from people who are right in it, like Chris Lee from Wade Smith.
Yeah, exactly. Chris Lee lived it. He says, Adidas was always the pinnacle for me, chasing down rare styles, exclusive colorways, knowing you had something no one else did.
The thrill of the chase again.
Absolutely. But he also stresses it wasn't just about one brand. It was the full mix, the gear you wore, the way you wore it, and that constant game of one-upmanship.
The whole look, the attitude.
The whole package, that quest for originality defined it, creating this complex language only insiders truly got. Chris Staunton, another ex-Wade Smith buyer, sums it up, calls the book the Bible of counterculture.
High praise indeed.
And deservedly so, because it maps out how this style, even as it changed, continues to run and run. Its influence lasts way beyond those early years.
Absolutely. It's clear this book goes way beyond just fashion, doesn't it? It feels like a proper cultural milestone. Peter Hooton's foreword, that 10-page introduction, sounds really key here. You mentioned it frames the book not just as a style look back, but as a cultural document.
Yeah, his words are described as reflective, passionate, and politically aware. And that's crucial context.
Well, it's politically aware.
Well, it helps us understand the backdrop. This was happening during times of big industrial shifts, political changes. Style wasn't happening in a vacuum. Think about early punk's DIY look, safety pins, ripped clothes.
Right, very anti-establishment.
Exactly. It wasn't just about looking edgy. It was often a rejection of consumerism, of the status quo, sometimes born out of necessity, but always with that provocative edge. So for generations of particularly working-class lads, fashion became more than just clothes.
It became a language.
A powerful one. A form of resistance, a way to express yourself, and really importantly, a way to belong. These styles were like visual statements about who you were, what group you belonged to, especially in a world that could feel pretty tough and confusing.
Visual manifestos almost.
That's a great way to put it. And what really comes through is this enduring idea of style as language. A way to push back, define yourself, find your tribe.
Yeah.
So whether you were actually there living through it all, or maybe you're discovering these styles now for the first time through the book.
Which many people will be.
Right. Counterculture gives you this really rare, unfiltered look into the lives and the wardrobes of British youth over 25 years.
From terraces to dance floors.
Exactly. Terraces, dance floors, street corners, underground clubs. It documents how fashion became this essential tool. Resistance, expression, belonging. It's vital reading, honestly. Not just if you love vintage menswear, though, you'll find endless detail, but for anyone interested in how fashion, music, class, and culture all intersect.
It really shows how identities were built and communicated through style.
Absolutely. Stories that still feel relevant.
So what does this all mean for us today? Taking this deep dive into counterculture, it really hammers home that clothing, back then especially, was so much more than just fabric. It was a language, wasn't it? A statement, a massive part of identity and expression for young Brits. This incredible book, this archive, shows how music, class, where you lived, sheer attitude, it all fused together to create these defining looks.
Yeah.
It really makes you think about the power of something as seemingly simple as choosing what to wear, how it can shape individuals and whole groups. It's a unique window onto history.
It really is. And that leads to a final thought, maybe something for you to mull over.
Go on.
These specific styles, these subcultures we've talked about, they were born from very particular social and economic times in Britain, right?
Definitely products of their time.
But they still echo today, don't they? They influence contemporary fashion, youth culture, long after they first appeared, vintage sportswear's appeal, those subtle codes of belonging. You still see traces.
That's true.
So it makes you wonder, how are today's young people, with all their different platforms, social media, online communities, how are they documenting their own forms of resistance, expression, and belonging?
Good question.
What styles are they creating or adopting to tell their stories, to connect with their tribes in a world that feels, well, just as complex, maybe even more so than the one those lads in the book were navigating?
Yeah. It's about that enduring power of style, isn't it? How it helps us make sense of the world and find our place in it generation after generation.
Exactly that. The enduring, transformative power of style.